Hey everyone, Hunter here from Allen Astrophotography. Now, brand new spanking news from ZWO, the official release of their new showcase from the latest conference that they are at in the Northeast currently. I did a speculation video about 2 days ago about what I was thinking of what some of these new products could be. Some I nailed perfectly, some I was very wrong about. But let's get right in. We have the official details for all of this. Looks like ZWO is really stepping up the game and starting to really get in towards the telescope aspect with a whole range of quintuplets. What I thought was probably an interchangeable lens that Sharpstar was doing, well, I was completely wrong on that. It's its own different variety of telescopes, which happens to be quintuplets, and they're kind of doing a little bit of collaboration with ASIAIR. Not only that, they have a brand new camera, the ASI 2600 MC Duo. Yeah, I thought it was a full frame sensor, but no, it's actually the 2600, but with a little special surprise. And of course, we got a new mount, the AM3. This was perfectly showcased, but I love this mount. I really, really want this mount very much. And there's also going to be a new, different variety of the ASIAIR Plus. So we're just going to first get right into the telescope aspect. We're going to first be looking at the brand new ZWO FF65 APO, which is your smaller scope made for wide fields, which is really, really nice. It really does remind me a lot of the ASIAIR telescopes just because of how the clamshell is. It's basically kind of like a rebrand of ASIAIR, but still holding the same kind of qualities. So let's look at what we can expect here for this as a 65 millimeter aperture with a focal length of 416, not too bad. And like I mentioned, it is a quintuplet. And it has the capability of doing full frame imaging, so it can support those ASI 2600s. Has a central radius of about 2.5 UM. And here's the interesting thing, does not need a flattener, which is very interesting. I know a lot of these scopes now, especially from ASIAIR, are trying to adapt the new self-flattening. It's okay, it's not 100%. I have a smaller version of the ASIAIR, the 135, and it has a self-flattener. It's okay, it's close, but not quite there. It has has a three-piece photographic adapters, which is cool, and it says no need to calculate the back focus, which is I don't know about that one. So okay, so it has a different varieties of adapters: M68, M54, and M48. Has a dual speed 1 in 10 focuser and the self-flattening design. So I don't know really how much I feel. It's a very attractive looking scope whatsoever. I love the red and the white design. Nice clamshell. It has a very, very good looking, well, very attractive looking dovetail for this. So here is the specifics on this. It has an observing mode of 121 millimeters, aperture size is 65, focal length is 416. The focal ratio is f6.4, so it's a little bit on the slower side of things, but they were offering, say, if you buy it early, that they're going to bring in a reducer. Don't really have any details on the reducer that I see, but I imagine it's probably going to be bringing down the focal ratio into the f5 category. Let's see here. Has different kinds of threads for different kind of imaging trains. Let's see, it's a 44 millimeter imaging circle, which just supports full frame sensors like the 6200. The self-flattening design, you don't need a field flattener. Eliminates the trouble of calculating back focus and distance of the flattener and connecting various accessories to achieve that distance. You can connect to anything possible. So that's pretty cool though, if you can actually get it to self-focus, which is cool. Let's see. It's equipped with a high quality CNC machine and painted tube. Wonder what kind of optics coatings that they're using for this. That's a cool clamshell design for that. The different sizes for your imaging cameras. You can rotate 360 degrees right inside of the telescope, which is very, very helpful, especially when you're trying to frame up some stuff. Let's see, that's kind of just more of the nitty-gritty kind of stuff. And that's pretty much really it, because you can do a whole bunch of different optical stuff. So there's different sizes in their line that they have for this. They have also an 80mm design, which is pretty much more of the same thing. So they're going to be looking at, for the 80mm, it's a focal length of 600. It's a pretty long focal length for an 80mm scope with a focal ratio of f7.5. So this one's even slower than the 65mm. Still a quintuplet as well, but something like, if you're looking to get an 80mm, I would definitely highly recommend getting a reducer to try and get that focal ratio down. I'm still very curious of like what the actual focal ratio is going to be for this reducer, but still there's no details on that whatsoever currently, so we'll have to see about that. Hopefully it brings it down to about the f5 range to make it a little bit better. Now they also have a 107mm version of this telescope, also a quintuplet. ZWO's website has been having a lot of problems with loading in. Okay, so I can at least get to see it from here. 107mm aperture with a focal length of 749. So it is probably going to be in the f6 range, what it looks like on here. So it has the ability for a full frame sensor, has the self-flattening design, and then you got the big boy. You got the 130mm with also the chance of getting a reducer as well, with a focal length of 1000 flat. And I want to say this was, yeah, it's a little slow at f7.7, but that is a big scope for that kind of focal length, especially if you can get it reduced. This one's going to be a very, very nice imaging scope for a lot of people. So the price ranges on this, on the 130mm, is a whopping $3,500 price tag. That's a pretty hefty one there. With the 107mm, you're looking at about $2,500. For the 80mm, you're looking at about $1,500, which is pretty good. And then with the 65, for a little bit of some wide angle stuff, you're looking at about $1,000 for that. So that is the rundown for ZWO's new telescope line, which is very interesting. We'll love to try out some of those, but here is the very interesting one here. Now, the camera, I was spot on about this being a guide sensor integrated in with the system. What I wasn't right with is I thought it was a full frame camera. It looked like a full frame camera based on the preview images that they had, but it's actually the same sensor as the 2600 MC, which is an APS-C. Here is a very cool thing that really sparks my interest into this, because it helps to eliminate the complete need of a guide scope, a guide camera setup, where it's all integrated in towards one, so you kind of have a built-in off-axis guider. So everything else seems to be pretty much the same if you're familiar with the ASI 2600 MC Pro. Everything else is all there. I'm very curious about this design of this guide camera that's built in, because especially when you're using narrowband imaging, the stars are a lot more fainter. So being able to use this integrated, I don't know. It would be something that I would have to actually physically test to do so. So here is the differences between the normal MC Pro and the ZWO, what they're calling this. So looks like the differences in between that, looks like the sensor is sped up a little bit at 15 frames per second. And the sensor they're using is an SC2210, which is a Sony sensor, it looks like. And the adapter is going to be a little bit bigger now at M54 instead of M48. So that's going to be a little bit of a different setup for the back of your imaging train here. So when we're looking at the sensor, it's an SC2210. that is taken from the ASI 220mm mini camera. Okay, so that has a pretty good QE peak at about 92% at 500 nanometers. That's pretty good. The readout noise is pretty low, which is the featuring of the new generation guide sensors, achieve great results in guiding provided by hundreds of astrophotographers. Interesting. So the main sensor still is the same, the APS-C pixel size of about 3.76. So all that is completely the same for the 2600 MC. The Starvis technology, so the base is on the new Sony Starvis technology. Sony's back illuminated CMOS sensor improved sensitivity and read noise reduction, the key factors, so enhancing image quality. So it's using a 16-bit ADC. The FPS has been brought up to about 15, which is a little bit better than the original. Extended well mode is still pretty much all the same. Uses a 512 megabyte DDR3 buffer. Of course, it has a no amp glow. Two-stage cooling and cool it down to 35 degrees below ambient temperature. Has the dew heater, and still ZWO's website is still having some problems here. But yeah, this is very interesting, especially used for out in the field. This is something that many will have to first-hand test to see how it does, especially with narrowband imaging. But the price range is actually exactly the same of what the original price for this camera was when it first came out, at about $2,000. And it said if you order just before the end of the month, you also get a M54 sensor tilt plate as well for free, which is very helpful, especially for some places that have issues with some sensor tilting and squashing of the stars. But that's very, very interesting for ZWO to try to be the first ones to actually integrate this. So it's very new. And here is the moment we've all been waiting for, the brand new ZWO AM3 harmonic equatorial mount. This is going to be a big game changer for a lot of people, since the AM5 has been a huge hit for many people. I haven't been able to use an AM5 yet, unfortunately, but this looks like is the more budget in the smaller category of things. Has a stronger low capacity. Without a counterweight, you can do about 8 kilograms, which, if I do my conversion correct, that's about 17 pounds without a counterweight of a payload. And with a counterweight, you can do up to 13, which is about 28 pounds. Very similar to my Ioptron Gem 28. Very interesting. And let's see here. Yeah, pretty much the same. It can be traditional equatorial mounts require heavy counterweights. It can be very difficult to keep in balance for RA and declination. I do have that issue with my Ioptron, unfortunately, which is a pain to try and get it to actually balance in all direction. But with the new strain wave gear system, it's relatively simple function, insufficient in low capacity. It's also very stable to use. So it looks like they're geared it for more of the budget line of things, anything upwards to about 28 pounds with a counterweight, or if you're using a small refractor or a DSLR camera, kind of like a star tracker. It's pretty much all the similar things. This is going to be huge going forward, especially for people with smaller setups and want the nice ability to not have to worry about a counterweight. It's extremely portable. But it looks like the price range is going to be $1,500. That's a pretty solid price range for something like this. I think a lot of companies are going to be switching more to this harmonic equatorial mount design, so you don't have to worry about counterweight systems, don't have to worry about balancing your system whatsoever. And I think there's an option too as well, yeah, to add a carbon fiber tripod. That's probably why it makes it at $1,798. It looks like this is still going to be a pre-order as of now. Shipping will begin in June, and orders will be filled in the orders so they're received. So if you're interested in buying something like this, better get it soon so you can get it in line, so you can hopefully be one of the first ones inside of that June timeline for this summer, which is really cool. And then one more thing, apparently they're going to be releasing a new ASIAIR Plus. The only difference that this is going to be, everything else internal-wise is going to be exactly the same, but the only difference is you're going to be having the option to get a 256 gigabyte internal storage instead of the normal 32, which is, it's cool, you know. You don't have to have a USB device like a thumb drive or whatever to, you know, have more storage, but at the same time, for the extra, you know, $70 to add on, it's just a little bit easier just to have a little thumb drive that's probably you can get on Amazon. You can get 128 or 256 for like $30 more. So that's going to be really it for that. But this is very exciting to see, and I'll be waiting to see from many of you on YouTube of your reviews of some of these new products that are going to be coming out once you get your hands on that. But that's pretty much going to be solving out for this. I hope you enjoy. Make sure to leave likes, comment, and subscribe, please. This is the brand new channel. I'm going to be doing more of these product reviews as they come out. And as always, clear skies, and I'll see you in the next video.